today is our first discussion stream, which we have been calling Drifting Down De Nile. I need a banner or something. Y'all voted. We're going to be discussing ancient Egyptian stories, literature stories. I have no plan, because that's what these are supposed to be, and I will say I'm feeling a little anxious about it. I have no plans for the stream, minus I went through my resources folder, which is, I have a giant folder on my computer that is pretty much every academic article or scanned book that I've ever used or not really even used. So I went through that and opened up all the files that I have under my literature section, and then I googled some stuff and looked up some stuff that I knew that we could look at later. I also found 2 short little YouTube videos of animated versions of some of these stories that I thought we could watch. But I think we're gonna really just I'm trying really hard to find actual translations of a lot of these so that we can actually read and see the hieroglyphs and stuff rather than just reading a summary or a dubbed version. But I do think we'll watch the little videos of two of the stories. So let's see what I have right now. I have the debate between a man and his ba, but as I'm scrolling through this, there is no translation. I could then find my book where I do have a translation of this, but this is all just images. I guess let me show you what we're doing. Nope, that's the wrong one. This one. So this is a book called, I scrolled at the very top. I guess I might even be able to find it. But this is essentially the debate between a man and his ba, and this is by Alan. So this his specific translation and how he's gotten it. And it actually has all of the different sections and hieroglyphs. And again, not in monumental hieroglyphic, but in hieratic. And then he has since translated it into the hieroglyphs. And then I think there's a separate document that I'd have to look up that is the translation, because I don't think I have that. Then I have this book, which is also Alan Gardner, Late Egyptian Stories. Oh, and it looks like we have it. The Tale of Doom print. This is perfect. This is exactly what I wanted to look at. But I want to see if these are... Oh! I should have known. Yeah, these are not translations. These are the writings. I have to run to the bathroom real quick, guys. So enjoy this battle royale. I will be right back. Sorry about that, guys. Lena, you won! Congratulations, girl. Very good, very good. So yes, so it turns out these documents that I had, I should have looked through them before we started, because this is all of... This, again, is not a translation. This is Alan handwriting the entire script, and then what it looks like is making notes about what the glyphs are supposed to look like rather than what the actual translations are. But I do have some of these translations in other places that I can look for. Yeah, here we go. Here the page ends, the rest of the story is lost. We'll talk about this in a second. But this is good because this at least has the list of some of the stories that I did want to talk to you guys about. We have The Tale of the Doomed Prince, The Tale of the Two Brothers, Contendings of Horus and Seth is a good one as well. Misfortunes of Wenamoon, I don't know this one. Don't know this one that well. Taking of Joppa, I've heard. Oh, Kensab in the Spirit. That's a good one too. So let's see. So I also have the miscellaneous. We could talk about these. These are not as fun because they're not really stories. They're more, and as you can see, I've taken pictures of all of them. They're more just like random things, random like proverbs is sort of a word that gets used, but it's not really the best way to do it. But this one is The Tale of Two Brothers. Is this a translation? Yes, this is a translation. Okay, we could go through this one. But it doesn't have the glyphs, so. The Tale of Two Brothers I'm not as familiar with. But then the other thing I had... So here's the Shipwrecked Sailor, which I think we'll probably start with, is what we'll go through, because it's the easiest thing and the story that I know the most. But Pyramid Text Online has quite a few things. I was able to find... We could go through the pyramid texts. Those are not nearly as fun as the literature. Oh, I was clicking on... Oh, I was looking through these. I guess it didn't open, the one I was looking at. The thing I was looking at... The Papyrus of Ani is here. What's the other one? We have a stela of Sebekunu, the earliest record of an Egyptian campaign in Asia. Sounds interesting. What was the one I was looking at? Oh, maybe it was down here. There was some sort of translation down here, and I wanted to see what was in it. And I just cannot remember where it was. I don't know. It was here, I thought, but okay. That's fine. But then we also have some videos and... Any preferences at all, please let me know. While I wait for preferences or suggestions, I'm gonna do step one. Whatever step one may be, I don't even know. I picked the one that looked more legit than the other one, so that's the truth. So we're just going to assemble all the small stuff because that's what the first steps are. There's like all these little tiny accessories and such. I also did set up this, but the camera fell off at the beginning, and so it did not show what I wanted it to show. Also, you can see my really cool, what the heck? Last time it was so, had it totally hitting like that, I guess. So, questions about ancient Egyptian stories and which ones we should start with. The ancient Egyptians did a lot of literature pieces. Unfortunately, a lot of them are unfinished, and it's probably because a variety of reasons, but it's most likely that all of the different pieces of like Egyptian literature are usually found on ostraca, which are, oh my god, I already broke something. Which way am I supposed to push this out then? Well, did I fully break it? I sort of did, but that's okay. To not do that? Yeah, that's fine. I know you can see the lipsticks. I need to, so right now, like the bathroom that's over here is my new like makeup and like hair bathroom. But I was like, oh, that's easy. So then like when I'm still waiting and I'm still getting ready, I can just run over to the bathroom and I can put on a lipstick. That is already proven like too annoying to do. So I've decided that eventually I'm just going to order a second pair of lipsticks, a second pair of all the lipsticks, so that I can keep like a pair, like, or technically I don't need a second pair of everything, but like that I can keep the, like, I need a bowl or something. Yeah, so ostraca could be pottery pieces or random pieces of stone. So like big pieces of limestone that have kind of been like cast away. Those could also be ostraca. And they're just, and some of these are on papyri, but the vast majority are not on papyri. So I have these little tiny pieces. I'm making braziers, I think. And so they fit together. Oh, they do. They fit together. And then I need, oh, no, I did that upside down. No, I don't think I did. I think, I've already messed up. Oh, it goes this way. I had it upside down. Okay, there we go. G10, and then I need G23. And I gotta paste. But the problem is this is like a glue stick. Seems strange. Seems strange when the instructions are all like, I think this is definitely not how it's supposed to go, because I think I'm supposed to paste the corners, which doesn't make any sense because I have a glue stick and not, let's just see if it'll fit. I don't even know if we'll finish this all tonight, but have to see. Oh god. Seems like it seems like this should fit better. Oh, again, I had it upside down, I think. I did. There we go. Good job, Baha. But yeah, so a lot of these literature pieces were made on these papyri, and the funniest thing about them is that they were never really meant for other people to see, which is strange to think of, but they almost pretty much were not meant for people to see, because those papyri and those ostraca were meant to be practice things. They were practice things for scribes who were just practicing. They were just trying to make their way, and they don't necessarily want people to see their scratch stuff, their scratch paper. So that is why a lot of these literature pieces are unfinished, or they're pieced together by different pieces of evidence that we have found. And so that's the extra complicated part, because it's oh yeah, you gotta make sure you have all the text and translate everything as you're going through it. And that's definitely not how it doesn't lead to accuracy. It doesn't lead to knowledge unless you can find everything. So we have quite a few which are unfinished. One of my favorite ones is not only unfinished, but it is, oh my god, that takes, oh, I just totally ripped it. Fun, great. It's like balsa wood or something, so I just totally ripped it. So hopefully that'll be okay. It'll probably be fine. Oh, wait a second. I did something wrong. These instructions are very detailed, and now okay. Oh no, I did do something wrong, but I didn't do it as wrong as I thought I did. I'm supposed to put this on this. Or no, this is the really broken one. Wait, What the Sam heck have I done? This is made for people with tiny fingers. But it is kind of just funny to think that a lot of this literature would never be seen. What do I know about the gods and goddesses with long heads? Angel, what do you mean do you know the names of the gods and goddesses? I can't think of any in particular that have a longer head than others. Unless you're thinking about Akhenaten and his wife, which are not gods and goddesses, so. Yeah, this glue is gonna do absolutely nothing. This is probably the worst glue that I've ever seen. Alright, well, it's now a little bit better. Very, very good question. In some cases, yes. Because there is a lot of... In some cases, there are a lot of, there's a lot of mysticism, there's a lot of magic, there's a lot of interesting things that like go on. But there are a few stories that have real life people in them. Mostly, obviously, the gods and goddesses are mentioned, but mostly kings and their families and stuff. And the key thing that is kind of weird about those stories is a lot of times the kings are sort of unnamed in some cases. Or if they are named, they have a weird name that you're like, is this actually who we think it is? Maybe yes, maybe no. And it becomes a little difficult to be able to like figure it out. And then the other thing is that you have to consider the audience, and you have to consider why one of these stories may have been written. And a lot of times it could be pure, like, essentially propaganda for that particular king. There is one, God, which one is that? I'm trying to think of the name of it. I don't think it's The Tale of Two Brothers. That one. There's one that's all about, the gods predicting like these twins and like who is going to age, like who is going to become king, and there are some theories that they have to do with like a particular pharaoh, and I just can't remember. Which story that is. I'm gonna have to look that up later. All right, we've done the two little braziers. I think we'll probably go over the shipwreck sailor, but let me make a couple more things on this list, and then we will get into it. That is very interesting, Angel. I don't really know how to reply to that, to be honest. Okay, so I'm looking for D, F, E, D. Oh, look at these. Very cool. So D11. D11 is this tiny, tiny little has like two little gods, and it has like some hieroglyphs. D11, D12, D10, and maybe D24. I don't know what I'm making in this moment, but it must be something cool. D24. There are patterns on this side. How do I know which sides are going out? Just making a tiny little box. Strange. really want to line up. I don't really want to go in. But it sort of is lining up, I guess. Okay, so then D25. Also, it looks like a little robot face. Hey Kaylee, how are you? Welcome to the stream. We are... Oh my gosh. Apparently I'm not doing this correctly. Oh, here we go. We are making one of these little book nooks that's like ancient Egypt themed. And we're also talking about ancient Egyptian stories. And in just a sec, we're gonna start looking at some... Oh my god, this is made for people with little hands. We're gonna start looking at some of the literature. Oh, there we go. Did I get it? I think I did. Oh, okay. I feel like that's not really in. Oh, I've made a tiny little box. We also moved, so we are in the new office. We're in the new setup, and we're doing a new type of stream to kind of really like discuss things, and so this is like our first session of it. But I also wanted to make this, so it's proving a little bit more difficult than I thought. So we might not be making this as long as I expected, because dang, it take forever. But thank you. We have a brand new fancy schmancy camera and a full office that is all Egypt. We still have to decorate. We've done all the walls and stuff, but we still got lots of extra stuff to do. God, if I really could figure out what this was supposed to be. What? All right. That's hysterical because these don't fit. These don't fit. These are so loose. Huh. Oh, I might have been putting it the wrong piece in the wrong place. Haha, my bad. Yeah, I was. I think I'm making a tiny Anubis shrine because it looks like there's a little Anubis. There he is. Oh my god, he's so cute. A tiny Anubis. And so I have... Getting the pieces out of here without damaging them is the scariest thing. The scariest part. Okay. So this goes on here, I guess. God. Come on. Ah. Oh my god, I hate that sound. I'm afraid I'm breaking it. Goes. Oh, it's supposed to be a table. Oh. Come on, camera. Focus. I know you want to. Yeah, it's stressing me out. Okay, wait. It's a little tiny Anubis shrine. It does look really cool, but dang, it's like barely fitting together. Alright, I'm gonna make like 2 more things and then we are gonna look at some Egyptian literature. See, I gotta find a different thing. F, C. Look at all this stuff. There's lots of different, like, little memorabilia items. I think, is this supposed to be a bust of Nefertiti? Oh god, that is supposed to be, but it's so bad. Look at it. It's like totally the wrong shape. C15 / 16. Chop both of those out. C15 and 16 and C20. Oh, come on. Come on. C20 and C31. These are more torches. Oh, come on. Torches. She does. She does look. Actually, she does look like she has bad posture. But I will say, if you do look at the bust of Nefertiti, her neck like overhangs like crazy. Oh my god! Come on. There we go. Now C25 and C26, which of course are getting pasted, which I don't trust that. If you haven't seen, I have a glue stick, and I just think that is like not the greatest implement for this, and it is seemingly implied that other ones did not have a glue stick but had something else entirely. Had some sort of liquid glue, which I think would do considerably better. Oh, temporarily set back. I did this one upside down. Now can I get it out? There. Oh my god, come on. This is ridiculous. There we go. Alright, we're gonna let those dry. And the last thing I'm gonna make is, I think I have to make some ladies. Yeah, I gotta make some, look like Hathor statues actually. So 19 and G20, but I actually need something from C. What do I need? C30. Not seeing. Oh, this. C30. C6. These are all just small little black pieces, so I have to make sure that I am putting them in the right spaces, or else I'll never figure it out. Oh my god. Well, it's hard doing 3D objects because I feel like things are just gonna squish together. Oh my god. This is definitely meant for people with tiny fingers, which I know I've said before, but I have really bad fat ass fingers, so I'm not meant for this. Ooh. I'm sorry, everyone. That noise was not satisfying. Alright. I made a little box. I have to do that with another... With a G? No, with an F. Oh no. Oh no! Where'd F10 go? Oh no. Is it gone? It's black. Oh. It's black and I have a black thing and I can't see it. The best way to do this is do it like this. Yeah, actually that's way more helpful. F11. Yeah, that works out. I thought I lost it. Something else fell to the floor, and so I thought it was that F9. But luckily, it was not. Oh, I need the hard surface of. All right, 2 little boxes, and then you then need the C3 and the F8. To make I need that hard surface though. I'm actually gonna do this upside down like this. And just try to oh my god, my fingers are gonna hurt so much after this. Oh, it's like cracking your knuckles or something. Alrighty, I now have a little box, and I have to make one more. Oh, okay. Alright, I think that's right. So then I need G30. So it's like her waist. It's like a reddish color. To glue it though. Oh, I was about to put this totally backwards. Okay, wait a second. There's statues sitting on the chair. Oh my god, this is so funny. I have to get her legs though. So funny. And I have to get her arms. I was wondering, I was like, there are two little arms. But I'm really worried about them popping out. This looks so stupid. Oh my god, that's so funny. Come on, focus. So she has like in her arms she has two little arms and she has an ankh in one of them. That is so funny. Okay, now just to redo that entire thing. There's also a mummy on this, which is interesting, because I don't know how he's going to be included in this whole scenario. They did give me backup arms, which I think are also funny. This is the last thing we're gonna do, and then we're gonna read The Shipwrecked Sailor, I promise. I should have known this was gonna take like an insane amount of time. I definitely think I'm gonna finish this though tomorrow because I'm very into it already. Though I don't know where it's gonna go. That's the key thing, is I do not. Oh, I should have put the skirt on first. Alrighty. This is all we have to accomplish. We have two little Hathor statues with their little arms and the ankh on chairs. which I just think are literally so cute. We have and Anubis shrine, table and shrine. We have 2 braziers. And we have 2 wall sconces. How long did that take me? Already way too long. So this will be finished another day. Probably tomorrow. So let us actually discuss some stuff. Let's start. Let's start with Shipwreck Sailor. I think it's pretty neat too, but man, my fingers already hurt. So another day we shall finish it. So, if you guys haven't heard of the Shipwreck Sailor, let me enlighten you. This is probably the most complete and most famous ancient Egyptian literature story. We have it. Let's actually pull up the Wikipedia so I can show you guys what pieces we have the text on, and then we'll go through the text. Shipwreck Sailor. Also, if you've been over on my TikTok, I've been reading out the translation on some TikToks I've been doing. So, it is a Middle Kingdom story. A lot of these stories come from the Middle Kingdom or the New Kingdom. Or I'll say this, we have the most versions of the text from the New Kingdom, but we know based on smaller evidence that it probably came from the Middle Kingdom and was continuously being told until the New Kingdom. So unfortunately, we got to look at our man Budge. If you don't know about Budge, Budge is not a reliable source now. Budge was a really big Egyptologist in the day. He was the director of the British Museum for a while. He wrote tons and tons of books, a lot of them having to do with language. When it comes to his art historical theory and a lot of that stuff, you can kind of throw it away. And when you go to his translations, you can kind of throw them away. My professor told us that the only thing that you can still use of Budge is his drawings of the actual text. So not the translations, not the transliterations, but his drawings of the text, we can still use those. But that's pretty much almost all we can use. So luckily we know where these pieces are, the originals, but he seems to be the first person that ever translated this and published it. Hello, Mark. How are you? How's Hawaii treating you? So he first published it in what looks like 1914, and he said that he found it on a papyrus in the Imperial Library in St. Petersburg. It is now called P. Leningrad 1115. Is now in Moscow. So Lichtime, she is a pretty good source. She's a much more modern source, obviously from the 1970s. Pretty good source for literature and is really good with, going on vacation. Hell, sounds amazing. Sounds amazing, Mark. Have a lot of fun in Honolulu. Oh no! I was about to ask, do you guys got hurricanes or cyclones or monsoons? So we're talking about the Shipwreck Sailor today, along with any other literature that we want to kind of discuss. Sorry. Apparently, there's a lot of contesting info about how this papyrus was discovered. And it actually looks like Golnichev published a translation in 1881. But that's so early in hieroglyphic stuff, so I wouldn't be great. So this is another really great thing about this text is that, as you'll see when we read it, is we know the name of the scribe. His name was Amena or Ameni, Amena. And we have a signature. It's probably one of the oldest signatures on a papyrus. And he claims to be excellent of fingers, or cunning of fingers, meaning essentially he's a good scribe. We're going to skip the summary because we're going to read the story. Yeah, so there is a lot of alliteration that sometimes gets popped up in ancient Egyptian art or ancient Egyptian literature, as well as like rhythmic pose, kind of like going over and over of like these rhythm stuff. So there is like a lot of things that, oh no, we have the, where is it here? I think Cunning of Fingers is a great title in whatever way you want it to be. So this one is a translation by Blackman. It looks like from 2008, but it seems like it's modified in 2015. But then the other thing you have to remember is that they also were transcribing it from Blackman. But then it also looks like omitted portions of 77 and 110, which we determined by means of Debuk and Golnischev. So Golnischev was the first, or one of the first ones. And they list some sort of changes. They list like the bibliography. So this is actually by Mark-Jan Nederhoff. And it is in Dutch. Certain parts are in Dutch. You'll see at the bottom. But this is the way that he's kind of written this, which I love. This is like the best way, I think, to both learn hieroglyphs and just understand like how they work, is that you essentially have the text here, the hieroglyphs at the top. You have a transliteration. So this is what sounds those hieroglyphs make, what phonetic diction those make. Then you have, in this case, he has the translation, and then you also have a translation in Dutch. But he also, he also like goes into so much detail about all the different glyphs themselves here at the bottom. So you'll see, for example, when we look at this first word, which is Jedini, he's showing you that the little snake here is a phonograph, the hand is a phonograph, the reed leaf is a phonograph, and this is a phonograph. But this is like a logograph, and then this is a determinative. And so it's showing you where all of those letters and those sounds are coming from within each glyph, which I think is really cool. And then it will tell you if it's a determinative. I'm wondering if phone in this case means... I'm gonna look ahead slightly. Okay. I think phone in this case might mean monoliteral. Logograph, maybe? Okay, yeah. So, yeah. So DET is determinative. It must be phonograph and logograph. But I'm unclear in the context of why we would need those words rather than using monoliteral, biliteral, or triliteral. I'm not really sure in what context he's using that, but that's okay. We'll figure it out. So, I'm going to do something really quick for TikTok. So that you guys can read this a little bit better. So, this is how the story goes. I'll read out some of the hieroglyphs if you want me to read it in some cases, but I'll read the English out to make it easier. But this is second D, so it's pronounced like a J, so it's Jed, it, and then the J is pronounced like an I, in Jed, in the little one with the accent is second S, so it's supposed to be sh. So she, shem, shemsu, iker. So an excellent follower says, "May it please you, Count," which you can see this is like a whole big word for the word for count, or the word for, these are a little bit harder to kind of determine what the Egyptians really meant by like these titles in some cases. The funny thing about it is this little lion, the little like four parts of a lion. Technically, this actually means the it means the foremost, so it's like somebody at the front, and so that in certain contexts it can be translated as count, somebody who has like a higher position than others, because it's like who is at the front, who is the foremost, sort of, which is kind of funny. May it please you, Count, we have reached home. The maul has been taken, the mooring post has been driven in, maul being a piece of the ship. You can see some of these are really long. So the mooring post, this is the word for mooring post, and this is the who is the word for driven in. But meet is the mooring post. And God, look at this. And the prow rope has been thrown on land. I always like the symbol for land because it's just like a long line with the 3 dots underneath it. Praise is given and the God is thanked. It is singular, I guess, which sounds weird. Every man is embracing his fellow. Look at the little hands. Little hands embracing you. And this is fellow. This is like friend. The word for friend is senuef, and then his, the equal sign. If you ever see the periods and the equal signs, they're not always used. I was gonna say, it looks like they're not really used in this one, but my professor taught us to do it. If it's in the feminine or in the plural, you'll add a dot in between the T, which is for feminine, the F, which is for male, or the W, if it's plural. But in this case, they don't seem to do periods, but they do these equal signs. So when you see an equal sign and then you see one letter, that letter is going to be a pronoun. In this case, F is going to be his. And so this is a translation of his fellow, his friends, his friend. It does have 2, his friends. I would have translated that in the plural because it also has the oo. The oo here helps you tell you that it's plural. And our crew has come back safe. They always love the little legs on inanimate objects. Without loss to our expedition. So we can tell that this guy is he's kind of just like bloviating to this count, saying, hey, like we finally made it back home. Like we didn't die on this boat trip. So then we reach the end of Wawet, which you can see here. Wawet is it's not necessarily a city because it doesn't have a city hieroglyph, I don't believe, no. But it has this kind of land, so Wawet is meant to be some sort of land, some sort of area. And it says, so we reached the end of Wawet and passed Biga. These are 2 places that I don't know if we have any evidence of where these are, but they do exist. And now we have come back safely. This is very interesting. Hetep. Hetep is like the word for offering. So it's interesting that can be translated as safely. Our land, we have reached it. You can see it's a little bit vague. They don't necessarily say exactly what these things are. Maybe that's a way for other people to relate to it, but so then he goes, listen to me, Count, like very, very demandingly. I am free. from exaggeration. So he's like, I don't have to exaggerate. Like, we did it. We're free. And what is unclear is then it's the Count talking, but it's kind of ancient Egyptian. Don't forget, no punctuation, no quotation marks, nothing. Like, it's very hard to tell sometimes when it's translated. So I believe this is now the Count speaking to him, where he goes, "Wash yourself. Put water on your fingers." Sorry, this mouse just like decides to love. I think there's actually like genuinely something wrong with this mouse, because it's not that like the sensor is bad, it's that literally I can't move the scrolling thing. So wash yourself, put water on your fingers, which you can see a, maybe if the stupid mouse will work, you can see a finger hieroglyph here. Jebau. That's your fingers. Your Jebau. Then you may reply when you are addressed. Speak to the king with self-possession and answer without stammering. Now this is a controversial translation, because something that I realized very quickly, which we kind of talked about at one of our previous streams, was that my professor, he did not like making up sentences for students to try. He didn't like making up sentences. He would not just like he essentially wouldn't do what I do with my like names and hieroglyphs. He wouldn't do that. He would really just like he would pretty much just use other texts. He would reuse them and he would show them to us, and that's what we would translate for quizzes and tests and everyday stuff. He really didn't like when other books would make up sentences. He's like, there's plenty of Egyptian texts that you can take from to use as examples. So something that I didn't realize until we like fully started reading this is that I had read many excerpts in the questions that he was giving us. And one of the biggest ones was this phrase, "The utterance of a man saves him." And I wonder if I can find my book to see how he translated, because it is slightly different. And I know that I've seen this in other places, and I'm just trying to see. Because eventually we got so deep into like our main book for class, and it mainly was, by the end of it, the larger, like longer sentences were all in order of the shipwrecked sailor. Just want to see if I can find that sentence. Oh, here we go. No, see, that's the thing, is we started midway through the story. So I don't think I have this sentence unless he made us translate it somewhere else. Which I know he did. I wonder if it's at the beginning. It was the phrase that he used like all the time. It was on a lot of our tests, I remember. So much so that you were able to like, oh wait, I know this sentence, and you were able to like write it down before you actually had to do stuff. I'm actually surprised looking back at a lot of these things about how little notes I would take. Which is kind of crazy because of how like difficult and detailed that this course was. It was just so crazy. Come on, I know that I have it here. I don't know if I'm gonna find it. I feel like I literally was just looking through this and I thought I saw it, which is weird. Actually, it will talk about it in just a second. It'll actually give you the size. It's a pretty big ship, but we also have to look up what a cubit is. So the whole thing is, so you haven't, this is weird, like the story hasn't started yet. I don't know how to describe it, but like if you've never heard this story before, it has not started yet. This is literally the weird, like, the weird beginning, and a lot of Egyptian stories start like this, where it's almost, again, it's sort of like a fable in a way, where it's like somebody is telling that, like there's a narrator and somebody is telling this story, but they need a reason why they have to tell it. We're in the reason why, and so he's gonna start the story in just a second. So yeah, I can't remember what it is, but the utterance of a man saves him is like one of the really famous like lines from this book, where it's like, because essentially the sailor has talked to this count, and he just is talking and talking and talking and talking, and this man, this higher up person says like the utterance of a man saves him away, and it kind of comes up way, that's like the moral of this story, is that like the way that people speak can help save you in a variety of ways. This one is much more literal, but it's really about how you speak and how you talk to people and respect other people, and it's a very interesting story. So this one, it continues with his speech gains him indulgence, is kind of how that ends. And then I think it goes back to the count, or back to the normal sailor, and the sailor goes, "You do as you wish. It is tiresome to speak to you." Oh no, actually no, I think the count still says that. Yeah, he says it. He goes, "You do as you wish. It is tiresome to speak to you." I think, and then it goes back to the count, or it goes back to the sailor, and he goes, "I shall recount to you something similar which happened to..." Oh no, actually, no, wait, this is the count. I'm now thinking about the end of the story. I think this actually is still supposed to be the count. Yeah, because it's the utterance of the man. Yeah, so this is the count. The count is telling this story, not the sailor. So he goes, "I shall recount to you something similar which happened to me myself," to like reassure, it's like me. All right, we're gonna, yes, you are correct. The cubit is based off of the forearm to the middle finger, so it's a little bit different, but yes, keep that number in mind, and we'll do some calculations in just a sec when they talk about the boat. So now the story begins. Now we are telling the story. So I had set off for the mining region of the Sovereign, and I had gone to sea. Technically, this word right here, down here, this is the word for the sea, but it is technically it is literally translated as the Great Green. I believe there is still a little bit of contention between whether or not the Great Green is the Mediterranean, is the Nile, or is the Red Sea. But it is translated as sea most often. I think that's probably why my professor preferred us to translate this word as the Great Green rather than picking one of those three major options for the largest bodies of water that the Egyptians had access to. So the Great Green is what it is. I like to call it most of the time. So I had gone to the Great Green in a boat, 120 cubits long and 40 cubits wide. So, do I have my calculator in my phone? Let's go off the basis that 18 inches is 1 cubit. So times 120, which means it was 2,160 inches, which is divided that by 12. It's 180 feet long. And then 60 feet wide. Should we look up a normal boat? So to relation, boat that is 160 feet long. Okay, so this one is a 160 foot super yacht. That boat that just sunk, that luxury yacht that just sunk, that was 160 feet long. So it's not that big, but it's pretty big. Like, this is like one of those nice, like, below deck type of cruise ships. And then let's look up the pictures of ancient Egyptian boats. Actually, you know what? We should look up what Khufu's boat was. I want to see how big Khufu's boat is. So if you haven't seen this, this is Khufu's ship. This is what we have, one of his solar barks, which we have reconstructed. It was found like this. It was found dismantled with all the rope and the rigging, and we have it still here. And this is the boat pit where it was found. It is 142 feet long, but it's only 19 feet wide. So this one is chunky wide. This is like, it's a pretty wide ship. That's very interesting. So it's just a little bit longer than this one, which is really cool that we can kind of compare it to like an actual ship that we have preserved, but it is apparently much, much wider. So it's very, very wide. Yeah, so Wajware is that word for sea. Where'd it go? See, it says Wajware. So Wajware, it can be a person, but it also can, in this case, it's not a person because there's no god determinative. The determinative in this case is this symbol, which is supposed to be a canal or like a river or like a body of, it's a pool of water of some sort. So this is not necessarily referencing the Wajware, the god, but referencing a body of water in somewhat. But yes, it's, again, we sort of, we have mostly associated him with the Mediterranean, but it is really, really hard to tell, to be honest, because it's just the Great Green. That's what it is. That's what we know it is. We don't know, we don't have maps of them labeling what the Great Green is considered and stuff, so it's kind of in the high likelihood of it is, but we're just not really sure. So yeah, so it's 120 cubits long, 40 cubits wide, with 120 sailors of the pick of Egypt. So like the best of Egypt is another way you could translate that. And there we have the word for Egypt, for Kemet. Whether they looked at the sky or looked at the land, they were more courageous than lions. Really? This is the funny thing, is that I've seen so much clips of Below Deck, but I've never actually like watched it all the way through. So I'm sure there's episodes I'm missing and stuff. I can only really take so much of it because not because of this the crew, because of the people who are on board. Sometimes they just like totally disgust me, and it just like I can't help but get secondhand embarrassment for how horrible they are to the crew. So but I do like the show. It's pretty cool. That is a very good question, Romo Growbeards. Probably not, because in certain estimations, only about 5% or less of the population could even read. So I'm going to assume anybody that could read could, absolutely, because they were scribes and that was literally their job. I really don't nobody else would be able to read this. A lot of these stories are going to be told orally. I don't know the myth of Jason and the Argonauts. I slightly remember it, but as we go through the story, Alex, I would really love for you to tell me how similar it is, because it does get a little weird in the middle. So yeah, so they were oh, no. Oh, very cool. Very, very cool. Gotta get your tattoo, Mark. I actually forgot to tell everybody, on Saturday, I met a curator from the Museum of Fine Arts in Boston. Not an Egyptologist. I think she was a European sculpture curator. She came into the museum and she was so nice. And we talked a little bit about stuff, and we were talking about, I had asked her where she was a curator and stuff, and I was telling her about Egypt and what I studied and why I really need to get up to Boston. She goes, oh yeah, you absolutely have to get up there. And I've met the Egyptian curator, and she goes, oh, Larry? And I'm like, yeah, Larry! I couldn't remember his name at the moment. She goes, oh, he's so lovely. And I was like, yeah, he gave us a lecture about the green head. And she goes, of course, about the green head. And it's just like, it was really, really fun. Hell yeah! That's awesome, Mark. Way to make connections at the airport. Alright, back to the story. Whether they looked at the sky or looked at the land, they were more courageous than lions. They could foretell a gale before it came, and a thunderstorm before it happened. But, which I think is so funny, because I find Egyptian stories do this a lot, where they mention something and then something directly counteracts it. But it says, a gale came up while we were at sea, before we had reached land. The wind rose and rose again. Oh, sorry, there's an ad. Whoop. Oh my gosh. That's so sad. I always think about that. That situation is just like so scary. Fire. God. One of actually the archaeologists that I work with, his neighbor's house caught on fire, and it badly damaged his house as well. Like, his house almost fully went down, and he's been displaced for months. Can't even remember. Pick of the best of them. Pick of the best of them. These guys definitely were not the best, because if they apparently could foretell a gale or a thunderstorm, they apparently could not foretell this one. So this is the wind rose and the wind rose again, which is exactly what's going on in the story. Same, Mark. Yeah. And a wave with it of 8 cubits. It was a beam that broke it for me. This is always so weird. So this is a super interesting line that you see here. Then the boat sank. So essentially there's really, really strong winds. There's a wave of 8 cubits that breaks the beam of this ship. And then it says, and then the boat sank. But when you actually look at this word here, muteti, muti does not mean sink. That is not what the verb normally means. It only means that in this context. This word is the word that means to die. Technically, the translation of this is then the boat died. Usually, let me see if I can pull it up actually. I want to pull up the dictionary so that you guys can see. There's usually a determinative on there that is not added in this one. So if it's muti, that means did I read that right? Oh, I remember this now. It's actually not moot. Usually it's MT for some reason. This is a very strange word that is written very oddly. T at the end of the alphabet. Here we go. Moot. So it's actually met. It's very weird. So this is the word. So it has a little dead guy. Little dead guy lying there. And so it's the word to die, but it technically is for the perish of a ship, which you could see here. So if you've ever looked at this dictionary like really, really closely, if there are multiple definitions, you will see these citations for different texts and different translations. And if you notice, this says shipwrecked sailor, line 38. So literally this is like not the only time potentially, but one of the only times that this word is used to mean the perish of a ship, the sinking of a ship, is from this actual text. So technically, it's really weird to say because, again, this language is all about context. So it's all about putting the words next to each other and figuring out what they mean. But technically, if that's the only example, it should just be die. It shouldn't be sank. It should be that the ship died. We're just jumping that. We're jumping that little gap, saying, oh, but if it died, then it must have sank. No, the real word that they used is die. So it really should be like stuff. Yeah, the boat went down to Davy Jones, for sure. Oop, where'd the document go? Here it is. So, then the boat died. And of those aboard, none remained. Wait. Oh. I thought it says except me, but... No, yeah. Of those aboard, none remained. And then I was cast on an island by a wave of the sea. I spent 3 days alone. If you haven't seen how numbers are written, it's just these 3 lines, which is really annoying because this attached to this word could also mean, could also be like, those 3 little lines can also be used as like saying something is a multiple of something. And so like, but in this case they are numbers, which is very annoying. So I spent 3 days alone, my heart being my companion. Essentially meaning like I am my only companion. I am alone. And I slept in a shelter of wood, embracing the shadows. Probably meaning keeping in the shade. Then I stretched my legs. This thing right here, aha-en, as I've mentioned before, there's no punctuation in a lot of these sentences. So a lot of these things you don't know where one sentence begins and where one sentence ends, which is like really annoying. Phrases like aha-en, which is this like, I believe it might be a sistrum. It's like sistrum, then arm, and then the water. This aha-en is like, it means then. It means and then. So a lot of these literature stories will always have, and then this happened, and then this happened, and then this happened. And so that really helps break up the story, especially when you're translating it. So you're like, oh, then. Like you just can draw lines before these words and say, okay, I know that the sentence ends before that. So then I stretched my legs to learn what I might put in my mouth. Why they did not use the word to eat, I don't know. I found figs and grapes there, and all kinds of fine vegetables. Unripe sycamore figs were there as well as ripe ones. And muskmelon, as if cultivated. Yes, rhyming and alliteration were really big things that the ancient Egyptians did, so probably something like that. I actually want to look back and see. So this says, Ar rech jit e m ra'i. Sort of gets close there, but or with the aha en duen ni redui e ar jetsi or jeet e m ra'i. Just to make it confuse us, but all right, where was I? And muskmelon, as if cultivated. Fish were there as well as fowl. There was nothing that was not on it. Meaning, like, there was nothing, like, everything was here on this island. Like, it wasn't like I was going without. Alright, guys, you guys ready for the twist in the story? Then I ate my fill and dropped on the floor because of the abundance on my arms. I took a fire drill, made fire, and made a burnt offering to the gods. Then I heard thunder. I thought it was a wave of the great green. Trees were breaking. The earth was trembling. When I uncovered my face, because he was like hiding, he was scared. When I uncovered my face, I found it was a serpent coming. He measured 30 cubits. His beard was bigger than 2 cubits. His skin was gilded. His eyebrows were of real lapis lazuli. He was bent up. He opened his mouth to me while I was on my belly before him. He said to me, "Who brought you? Who brought you?" This says young man. My professor translated as little man, so I'm going to say little man instead. I think it's funnier. Who brought you? Who brought you, little man? Who brought you? If you delay telling me who brought you to this island, I will make you know yourself to be ashes. I turned into something that one can't see. Giant snake. You speak to me. This is the count, or the sailor speaking. But I am not hearing. I am before you, and do not know myself. Then he put me in his mouth, and took me to the place where he lived, and set me down without harming me. I was uninjured, without force applied to me. He opened his mouth to me while I was on my belly before him. He then said to me, Who brought you? Who brought you, little man? Who brought you to this island? It's supposed to be this. There's a typo! In the great green, with water on all sides. Then I answered this to him. Now get ready. This is another thing that is super, super common in ancient Egyptian stories, where it is you repeat everything that you have already said in almost the exact same way. So we're going to go through this quite quickly. Then I answered this to him, my arms bent before him. I said to him, It's that I was going to the mining region on a mission of the sovereign, in a boat 120 cubits long and 40 cubits wide, with 120 sailors, the pick of Egypt. Whether they looked at the sky or looked at the land, they were more courageous than lions. They could foretell a gale before it came, a thunderstorm before it happened. Each one of them was more courageous and stronger than his fellow. There was not a fool among them. A gale came up while we were at sea. Before we had reached land, the wind rose and rose again, and a wave with it of 8 cubits. It was a beam that broke it for me. Then the boat died, and of those abroad none remained except myself. So yeah, they just like repeated the entire beginning portion of the story, which is just like quite annoying. And then also what's even more annoying is that it's just slightly different. Like there's just like a couple phrases that they've added or removed, and it's just slightly different, so you can't just copy the exact same thing. So now well, Baha, that's the thing. These stories, more often than not, when we have found these stories on papyri or on ostraca, they are not written down because somebody is recording the story. They are writing it down so that they can practice their writing skills. That's truly, truly what it is. They are just trying to practice their writing skills, and that's pretty much it. Because they're just trying to reiterate and practice and practice and practice, which is why these pieces get thrown away so often. Alright, so where was I? And of those aboard, none remained except myself, who is here with you. Then I was brought to this island by a wave of the great green. Then he said to me, fear not, little man. Do not turn pale, for you have reached me. Look, the God has let you live and has brought you to this island of the spirit. Spirit is not the way you should translate it. You should really translate it as the Ka. The island of the Ka. Ka is a portion of like what they believe the ancient Egyptian soul was, but you would never really translate that as spirit. Whenever there are certain specific words that are kind of like Ma'at. Ma'at is like, yeah, you can translate it as order, but it's really not. It's really not the essence of it. It's really not all that. It's so much more. So you can't. It's like that one's hard to translate it like that. Yeah, it's hard when it's not that necessarily it's more specific, it's that it's very wide ranging, and so like by translating it with one word does not fulfill all the things that this word means to the ancient Egyptians. Hello, alloy and roll. I'm blanking on how to pronounce that. Please let me know if I pronounced that wrong. We are reading the Shipwrecked Sailor. We're about halfway. Yeah, we're about halfway. So right now, the Count is telling a story of something that happened to him, to one of his sailors, and he talks about how when he was a sailor, he was the only one that survived a really big storm that destroyed his ship, and he ended up on an island that had a ton of different food products and such, but then he met a giant serpent who grabbed him and took him to his lair and was like, hey, what are you doing at this island? And then now he's told him the story about how he was at the island, and he's like, actually, it's okay. Like, the gods have dropped you here. It's totally fine. So it says, has brought you to this island of the Ka. There is nothing that is not in it, and it is full of all good things. You will spend month upon month until you have completed 4 months on this island. Then a boat will come from home with sailors whom you know, and you will go home with them. So he's kind of predicting essentially what is going to happen, and that kind of indicates that this serpent is probably more of a god than anything. And I love this. It says that, like, you will go home with them and you will die in your city, which is a very strange way to phrase it, but it is like, you will die. You won't die here on this island. You will die somewhere that you know, like, eventually. But I think it's funny how he phrases it. How happy is he who can recount what he has experienced when a painful thing has passed. It's another really famous phrase from the story. I will recount to you something similar, which happened on this island where I was with my relatives. So now we got another story within a story. Now the serpent is telling a story of when I was with my relatives, including children. We were 75 serpents in all, with my children and my relatives. Here you have the number 75. I will not mention to you the youngest daughter, whom I had obtained by prayer. Then a star fell, and they went up in flames because of it. It happened when I wasn't there, burnt when I wasn't among them. Then I died for them, when I found them as one heap of corpses. If you are brave, be stout-hearted, and you will embrace your children, kiss your wife, and see your house. This is better than anything. You will reach home and remain there among your relatives. So this poor snake has had a hell of a life where he has lost 75 members of his family, seemingly when like a meteorite fell or something. I think this is probably one of the most interesting parts of this story, at least for me, because if you write it, it means that you understand that concept and that you possibly have seen this concept. And so the concept that a star fell boggles my mind. And obviously we know that the ancient Egyptians were relatively good at astronomy. They had all their stuff. And we know that they had, in some cases, access to metals that were meteorites, aka Tutankhamun has a meteorite dagger. But it's unclear if they made the dagger from something that they know was a meteorite, or if it was just out of a stone that just happened to be a meteorite. Like, I would love to believe this crazy story that suddenly everyone in Thebes is looking up and there's a meteorite coming down, and then somebody essentially goes out and finds the rock and brings it to the king, and the king is like, yeah, I'll make it into a sword or a dagger. I would love that to be the story. We don't have any evidence that that's how it worked, but it's a possibility. But I just love this. Then a star fell. Like, it's just wild. It's wild that something so small in this story opens up a huge possibility for what the ancient Egyptians may have seen in their lifetime. It's so many thousands of years. Like, oh my god, it could be anything. Hello everybody on TikTok. We are reading an ancient Egyptian story called The Shipwrecked Sailor. We're also live on Twitch right now, if you want to check it out a little bit closer. Yes, I would say so. I always forget when the Iron Age starts in comparison to ancient Egypt. 1200, yeah. 1200 is way after King Tut, I think. This is the whole thing, is I'm so bad with timelines. Early iron comes highly likely from meteoric iron. Iron production requires temperatures from 1100 to 1500, which just doesn't come around. Yeah, so 1200 around the time of is kind of the time of the Iron Age. So the snake is finished telling his story, and now we have, I was stretched out on my belly, probably meaning he was like prostrating himself, like bowing and like very respectfully to this serpent. I was stretched out on my belly and touched the ground before him. I said to him, I shall recount your might to the sovereign. I shall make him aware of your greatness. I shall have them bring you... I don't think this is supposed to be laudanum. I think it's something else. I don't know what that is supposed to be. Ladanum, malabothrum. I think these are oils or something. Terebinth, like balsam, process incense, for which every god is pleased. So like essentially I'll tell him to bring you offerings and such. Okay, yeah. So a gum resin, although Southern European rock rose. But yeah, it's obviously some sort of resin incense or something. Again, these are like not totally accurate. Like it's like really, if it doesn't have a really good direct translation, just call it. So like in some cases you can see, where was it? I just saw the word. Signature. Signature is like incense, so it's like you can just call it signature oil or signature something, like signature incense. Like you can just say stuff like that so that we still know what it is, rather than you just like making up and like whatever terebinth is. Like it's just easier if you just say the Egyptian words at that point. I shall recount what has happened to me, what I have seen of your might. One will thank the god for you in the city before the council of the entire land. I shall slaughter bulls for you as a burnt offering, and strangle fowl for you. Isn't that like all girl wishes for a guy to slaughter some cattle and strangle some fowl for you? I shall have boats brought for you, laden with all the wealth of Egypt, as done for a God who loves mankind in a distant land that people do not know. My favorite thing is that he lays out all of these, like, I'm gonna, like, treasure you with riches and stuff because you have saved me and you haven't killed me. And then the freaking snake laughs at him. Then he laughed at me at what I had said, which was wrong to his heart. He said to me, "You don't have much myrrh or any form of incense. But I am the ruler of Punt. Myrrh is mine. That Malabratham that you said would be brought, a large quantity, is from this island. Once it happens that you have left this place, you will never see this island again, which will have become water." So, like, it literally is like, I'm gonna bring you all of these amazing, like, imports and stuff, and the snake is like, dude, I already have all this stuff. I don't need anything else. And it's very interesting, like, mythical place, like, you've come here, and when you leave, you'll never see us again. We will become water. I'm sure that there are certain implications that this is like a mythical place, like an island, like maybe it's supposed to be a reference to the original mound, the primordial mound in the Waters of Noon, which is one of the earliest creation myths. It's like sort of a reference to, like, you've gone back to, like, the OG, to the original place in Egypt, that the beginning. But as you leave it, you will never come back. You'll never be back. Then the boat came, as he foretold previously. Then I went to put myself up a tall tree, and I recognized those who were aboard. Then I went to report this and found that he knew it. Then he said to me, "Farewell, farewell, little man, to your house and see your children. Let my name be good in your city. This is my due from you." Then I placed myself on my belly, my arms bent before him. Then he gave me a cargo of myrrh, malabathrum, terebinth, balsam, camphor. See, this is where it does. We don't know the exact plant, so you say a sha'a esech plant, black eye paint, giraffe tails, a great lump of incense, elephant tusks, hounds, ginons, apes, and all kinds of riches. Then I loaded this onto the boat, and it happened that I placed myself on my belly to thank the God for him. Then he said to me, "You will reach home within 2 months. You will embrace your children. You will become rejuvenated at home and will be buried." Then I went down to the shore near this boat. Then I called to the expedition that was on this boat. I gave praise on the shore to the Lord of this island, and those who were aboard did the same. I keep saying abroad. Then we sailed north to the residence of the sovereign and reached the residence within 2 months, like everything he had said. Then I entered before the sovereign and presented him with this tribute that I had brought from within this island. Then he thanked the God for me before the council of the entire land. Then I was appointed as follower and was endowed with his people. See me having reached land, having viewed what I have experienced. Listen to my speech as it is good to listen to people. Then he said to me, and this again is going back to the OG sailor at the very, very beginning of the story, don't act clever, friend. Who would give water to a goose when their day dawns of his slaughter in the morning? This was copied from start to finish, as found in writing, the writing of a scribe with skilled fingers. Ameni, son of Ameniah. This is life, prosperity, and health. To very end. The end. That is how the story ends. This is like one of the ones that we have is like mostly completed. It's really, really well continued. It's really full, which is nice. I don't definitely like this translation as much. I find it very clunky. And again, as I pointed out, it jumps to conclusions for some of the translations. I could have read the one that we translated in class, but I don't have the full thing. I only have a little bit of it. I actually, if you go onto my TikTok, all the videos that I recently filmed, the names and hieroglyphs, I decided that my names and hieroglyphs, I'm going to tell stories over the recordings of me making names and hieroglyphs. So, no, it does not. We're going to go back to the Wikipedia and see what theories people have about that. But it doesn't. And that's kind of the weird thing is a lot of times, some of them, they name the gods, but that one is this vague kind of thing. I want to see this commentary and analysis. For some, is a transparent tale intended as a source of inspiration or reassurance for the noble mind, perhaps similar to something like courtly creation intended for the royal ear or for the consideration of aristocrats. Nevertheless, interpretation of the story has changed from the naive initial understanding that the story is a simplistic tale of the folk tradition into a sophisticated analysis, in which the narrative is showed to have a complexity and depth. The shipwrecked traveler engages upon a spiritual endeavor or quest, journeying through the cosmos to meet a primordial god. See, I kind of had a feeling this was some sort of primordial early god. Providing to the traveler a gift of moral vision with which to return to Egypt. Further, Richard Matthews writes that this oldest fantasy text contains archetypal narratives of the genre. An uninitiated hero on a sea journey is thrown off course by a storm, encounters an enchanted island, confronts a monster, and survives, wiser for the experience. Commenting additionally that the monster, quote unquote, is a prototype for the greatest fantasy monster of all time, the dragon, which is, I think is hard to tell, but yeah, it's definitely got some vibes like that. The tale itself begins with a framing device in which an attendant or follower, conventionally, although not in the papyrus referred to as the sailor, tries to comfort his master. Count or mayor is like the best way that word has been translated, although it has been suggested that they might actually be of equal status, who is returning from an apparently failed expedition and is anxious about how the king will receive him. That's the thing that I forgot about this, is that when you look really into like the beginning part, the sailor is saying it is technically a failed expedition, but the sailor keeps saying, we survived, it's fine, we're all back, everyone seems happy, like trying to avoid that it actually is a failed expedition. I forgot about that. And so he's worried about how the king will receive him because it's been a failed expedition. In some places there is a rhythmic prose, for example, we have reached the borders of the country Wawets, we have passed beside the isles Biga, we happily returned and reached our land. They also use alliterations, for example, Ma'a Sen Pet, Ma'a Sen Ta, Mak Ibsen Ir Ma'ut. So yeah, this is a really fun one. I really like this story. It's probably like the easiest one to read. Oh my god, is that a pimple? No, maybe not. It's a pretty easy story to read. It was one of the first, it is actually the first literature story that I read and translated and such. Any questions, you guys? We can probably read another, if I can maybe find a shorter version, a short one or something. I'm wondering if I can find like could maybe read The Tale of Two Brothers, but this one I feel like is a little bit long. I'm trying to think if we should read the... Saw a video how about they learned how Shakespeare spoke based on the rhymes in his stories. Was this in Egyptian? It's not 100% clear, but we do have a lot of evidence that they would use alliteration or rhymes. Unfortunately, we don't really know about how the ancient Egyptians spoke. It is really, really hard. We have been able to do some kind of back reading from ancient Coptic, which is like the only time that you really have it's like the only time that you kind of have the sorry, my mind blanked out for like a split second. Coptic is a descending language from the ancient Egyptian language, and so it's the only place where we actually have recordings of how it is spoken. It's only really spoken in the Coptic church, sort of like Latin is spoken in some Christian churches. So some Egyptologists have kind of back done it, where like you're able to kind of go back and, hey, like, this is how they said this word, this might be how this is pronounced. But the ancient Egyptian didn't have any vowels. So it's really, really hard for us to figure out how they spoke. And when we as Egyptologists speak ancient Egyptian, which is usually only in the context of like academic study and to help us learn the language, we don't all sit there and we don't all speak ancient Egyptian together. Because like, remember, my professor hates making up sentences, and that would be the same thing. But the only way that we have found that we're able to say it, because you need to say it, you need to be able to vocalize these sounds so that you can talk to people about it and kind of help deconstruct it, is that we add E, the sound E, to in between every consonant, pretty much. And most of them are consonants. We have a couple that are sort of vowels, but they're kind of half vowels. There's like the I, and there's the two A's, and the U. Those are pretty much the only ones that we don't like add the E in between, but they're kind of weird. They're kind of hard. Why don't we take a look at The Tale of Two Brothers? I unfortunately don't have a well, let me see if I can Google a translation. Trying to see if I can find. Oh, one from George Mason. I'm trying to, this is a very strange translation, but I think we can read it. What is this? This is a very strange writing of it, but I'm gonna look at it later. There's one on Internet Archive, but I don't know how old this is. Oh, it's very old. It's from 1898. No, I don't want that. There's another Internet Archive, but I don't trust this one either. Oh, it's loading real slow. Actually, let's watch the videos. How about that? Yeah, let's do that. All right. So, the translations have to be translated. So this is, I just found this on Google. I have not looked at this, so I don't know how good this is. It's a cartoon like version, which I think looks really cute. So this is a cartoon version of The Tale of Two Brothers, but there's also one for The Tale of the Doomed Prince, so I think we'll watch both.
Nobody can say that ancient Egypt is not fascinating. A history spanning thousands of years, all having their own unique stories shared around. The one in particular we will have a look at is from the 19th dynasty. This dynasty is very well known for one particular ruler, Ramses II, who lived for so long that nobody could really dispute his divine status. And yet, when you have someone like him, there must come harder times after his death. Today's story comes from those harsher times, when pharaohs on the throne were just sitting ducks for somebody else to take over. During Seti II's reign, when this story originated, a part of Egypt got taken over by Amemnes, who was of relation to Seti, either a brother or a son. Some people speculate that the tale may reflect this conflict and show who should really be on the throne. Anyway, just like with the contendings of Horus and Set, I'll do my best to keep this YouTube friendly. There is some wackiness going on, trust me. My name is Zairi, and I hope you enjoy. The Tale of Two Brothers. Once upon a time, there were two brothers. The older one was named Anubis, and the younger one, Bata. Anubis had his life figured out. He had a house, a wife, and took care of Bata as if he was his father. Bata in turn worked really hard for his brother. Bata worked mainly with his brother's cattle, sleeping in the barn with them and taking them out to the pastures. Because there lay the brother's secret. He was able to understand what the cattle was saying. Anubis didn't know about that. He was just satisfied that his cattle is the best looking one from the whole land. One day, the two brothers worked together on a field, having some laughs and enjoying themselves. But then Anubis realized that they didn't bring enough seeds. He sent Bata to their house to fetch them and return quickly. But at the house someone was waiting. The wife of Anubis was sitting down plaiting her long hair. Bata didn't even bat an eye and sent her to fetch him the seeds. She was like, "Do it yourself." And he actually did. That's a first. When he was coming back and passing his brother's wife again, she stopped him, asking him just how much is he carrying. Bata, who was very confused at this point, just replied with the exact numbers and wanted to get going, when the wife continued praising his muscles and hard work and oh wow, how pretty and young he was. She jumped to her feet and grabbed Bata by the arm, inviting him to bed. But Bata was a good brother and immediately declined, disgusted. He said that she better never do that again, otherwise he is going to tell his brother. This terrified the wife. What if Bata will tell her husband? Quickly she smeared herself with grease and pretended that she was assaulted. Later that day, when Anubis came home, he was horrified, demanding to know who did this to her. She told him basically the real story, only with the reverse roles, that she was the victim and his brother the seducer. She demands that Anubis kills his younger brother for what he has done to her. Anubis was furious. He sharpened his spear and waited hidden for Bata to come home. In the evening, the younger brother was leading his cattle back, his hands full of produce of the day. As he was approaching, the first cow stopped and spoke to him. "Be careful, Bata. Your brother wants to ambush and kill you. You have to run away." Another cow repeated the same message. And you better believe the cows if more than one says the same thing. Bata, confused, looked sneakily under the door. When he noticed a glimpse of his brother's feet, he realized that the cows were not lying. He dropped everything and ran. As soon as Anubis realized, he ran after him. When Bata realized he may not outrun Anubis, he prayed to Ra Horakthy to help him as his cause is just. And Ra listened. A river full of crocodiles have appeared between the two brothers. They now stood each on opposite sides, staring at each other. Bata was like, "I know you're very angry and I owe you an explanation, but let's wait until the sun rises." So they just stand there until morning. Then Bata told angry Anubis his version of the events, the true one. And to prove that what he was saying was true, okay, so this is the one not very safe for work part, but let's say he takes a reed knife and cuts off his pride, which he then throws into the water, where a catfish swallowed it, and now Bata was growing weak from losing too much blood. A normal everyday morning, I say. Anubis feels bad for ever doubting his brother, who tells him that he must travel to the Valley of the Cedar and not come home. But before he leaves, Bata has one request for Anubis. Also a very common request I ask of my friends on the daily, by the way. Bata asks him that if Anubis were to learn that something bad has happened to him, he should go to the Valley of the Cedar and find Bata's heart, which he will hide in the tallest tree there. And when he gets a hold of his heart, he should put it in cold water, as that will bring him back to life, apparently. And how would Anubis know that something bad has happened, you ask? Well, easy! The beer in his jug will start to foam and froth, signaling him. So Bata went on the journey to the Valley of the Cedar, while Anubis went back home, killed his wife, and mourned alone. Bata arrived in the valley, put his...
I'll pause this. Just the one part of the story I do know, because I had to talk about it for my thesis, is that part at the very end. He not only kills his wife, he quote unquote casts her to the dogs, which like is a very interesting indicator that like there was the knowledge that there were roaming large packs of dogs that would like go and eat like people, which is just like crazy. So yeah,
his heart into the tallest cedar and eventually built a house around the tree. One day the Ennead, the 9 great gods, were just on a little stroll around and they stopped to talk to him. They tell him that his brother has killed his wife, and also seeing how alone he was, Ra had a plan. He ordered Khnum to make a beautiful lady for Bata. She was gorgeous and she smelled gorgeous, like she was fragrant. After her creation, the 7 hot dwarfs came around, because one is not enough, and forecasted her fate. The woman is to die by the executioner's blade. Not the best fate, to be honest, but okay. Bata loved the woman, and she loved him. But he couldn't love her as much as he would like, because if you remember, he cut off a certain part of his body, which was eaten by a catfish. Bata didn't let her out of the house, as he was scared that the sea is gonna snatch her away, which it did exactly that as she was outside strolling under the cedar tree. She was running for the house to save herself when the sea called to the cedar tree to snatch her, but the tree managed only to get a lock of her hair, which it gave to the sea. The lock of the hair traveled far enough to end up in the laundry of the king of Egypt. The lock smelled so good, the king immediately wanted to find the woman it belonged to. Bata managed to defend her for a bit, but the woman was swayed by the promise of trinkets, clothing and jewelry when Bata wasn't looking. The king of Egypt married a young woman and ultimately questioned her about Bata. She didn't say anything else apart from ordering the pharaoh to cut down the great cedar tree in front of his house. King's troops did just that, and unsurprisingly, Bata died. In a land far away, his brother's beer started to foam and froth. Anubis instantly knew what he had to do. In the Valley of the Cedar, he found Bata's body, but it took him another 3 years to find the heart, which he eventually mistook for a pine cone. But anyway, he put it in a bowl of water, and just like those little bathroom animals, it grew in size. Bata's body began to jerk and twitch. Anubis held the bowl to Bata's lips and he drank the heart back into his body. And Bata was alive again! The brothers embraced and talked throughout the night to plan revenge on Bata's wife. The plan is truly something. Bata is to transform into the prettiest bull anyone can imagine, and Anubis is to come into the king's palace and give the pharaoh the bull as a gift. The plan worked perfectly, and Anubis was even rewarded with silver and gold for such a pretty bull. Little did they know. Bata became the king's favorite bull, and he was basically free to roam the whole palace as he would have a cat. One day he entered the kitchen where his evil wife was. He spoke to her. "See, I'm still alive.
She's done a couple
Bata,
other
your
ones that we'll
husband,
watch
and man
too.
no more, but a bull." The young queen was terrified. She ran to the pharaoh, and on a banquet, when he was in a good mood, she asked him for a request. The king promised to grant it, whatever it was. And so the queen demanded the bull to be sacrificed, and that she wants to eat his liver, for some reason. The pharaoh did exactly that, but as the bull was sacrificed, 2 drops of blood flew from his neck, and where they fell down, 2 magnificent persea trees grew. This was a wonder to be celebrated, and even the king and queen rode out to view the trees. The pharaoh sat under one tree, while his wife sat under the other one. There, Bata spoke to her again like, "You thought you were gonna get rid of me. I know you were the one giving the order to chop the cedar tree down, and now kill the bull." And again, the queen, terrified, waited for the king to be in a good mood again, and persuaded him to chop down these 2 trees and make furniture out of them. The king listened. He promised her after all. But as the trees were being hacked down by the carpenters, a splinter flew into the woman's mouth. And yeah, if you are guessing what I'm saying here, she, as in the faithless wife of Bata, became pregnant, with the child being Bata. 9 months later, the queen gave birth to a healthy son. He has immediately been made a viceroy of Kush, definitely a great honor for a baby, and eventually baby Bata became a crown prince, the king's heir. Once the old pharaoh died and Bata sat on the throne, he had all the officials brought in and he told them the whole story. The faithless wife was brought in and judged before the court. Then Anubis was brought in and Bata rewarded him and made him a crown prince. So after Bata died with 30 years on the throne, Anubis ruled after him and everything ended happily. The end. A lot of "this is totally normal daily occurrence, what do you mean you can't get pregnant from a splinter of wood" in this story, but I thought it's really cool. I always find the resolutions of the problems really surprising, and Anubis and Bata have a nice relationship in the end, which is really sweet. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed. If you did, a like and subscribe would mean a lot to me, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye! And also, I open a coffee shop, so if you ever want to have something drawn by me, feel free to have a look. I would really appreciate it. Okay, bye.
So, this story is so interesting to me because there are so many very close things that I would say are so close to biblical stories. Really, the very beginning part is so close to the Joseph story, in a lot of ways. Mainly the portion where Joseph is in Egypt, and him and the Potiphar's wife. Like, that part is so similar. And then there's the, sorry, I'm trying to get the stupid staircase. And this is definitely like everything needs to line up so perfectly. And I just can't get, why won't they go in? I started doing this because that video was longer than I thought it was, and I'm regretting this decision. I know what's going on. Okay, sorry. One of these, like, the boxes are slightly larger and one of them are slightly smaller. So I'm sure I'm supposed to put them into the slightly smaller one first so that it's like jamming them in. But yeah, so like that part is really similar to the Joseph story. And then, hi, Uncle Bill. Yeah, that's really similar. What was the other thing? The other one was, I can't remember what the other part was. That was so similar to a Bible story. God, why is this so hard? So I need to make sure that this... I'm just like, this part seems like it's not... Oh my God, it is going in, but barely. I'm worried that this piece is like warped or something, because these pieces are barely going in. But how are you doing, Uncle Bill? I haven't seen you in a really long time. I don't think these are going to fit. That's definitely not going to fit. That is literally like too big. This is gonna be fun. All right, I'm gonna give up on this for a second. It's supposed to make a really cool staircase, but I don't understand how it's supposed to do that when one side of this, the boxes are considerably more narrow. But yeah, there was a couple other things in that story that seemed really, really similar to like biblical stories and such. Well, I'm so glad you are here, Bill. I'm trying to build this. Oh, I got it, but I'm literally splitting the edges of this, which is insane to me that I have to do that for this. I'm trying to make a tiny mini staircase for this. I can't do it. Oh, this thing. I'm so glad I'm going to do most of this off stream because it's so frustrating that it sticks in so perfectly on this side, which now ironically it's not. What the heck? I'm putting them in the wrong direction. Oh my God, I'm a dumbass. Oh my God, they're little rectangles and I put them in the wrong direction. Oh my God. They need to go in this way. Oh my goodness gracious. Except not that way either. Wow, that was very silly of me. Very, very silly of me. I was trying to put them in. Yeah, this way. Oh my gosh. Wow. Okay, that's so much easier. Okay. One of the things about this story that's so interesting to me is that it is slightly somehow related to come on, mouse. Is somehow related to what did it say? Seti and Amenemez? Mouse. All right, we gotta order like a new mouse right now. The Tale of the Two Brothers. So the Tale of the Two Brothers is an ancient Egyptian story that dates from the reign of Seti II, who ruled from 1200, so there's the Iron Age, around Seti II is the Iron Age, to 1194 BCE during the 19th dynasty of the New Kingdom. Stories preserved on the Papyrus de Orbenet, which is currently held at the British Museum. We are building one of those book nooks. It's like a narrow little book nook that's going to go on our new bookshelf in our new office. But we're also talking about ancient Egyptian stories. That's the theme of today's discussion. Though this thing is like a hoot and a half to be able to. Oh, did I get it? No. The problem is that these pieces are so tiny. So it's on the Papyrus de Orbenet, which is at the British Museum. Oh, okay. Nope, I put that in the wrong way. Dang it, now I can't get it out. Okay, this way. There are little marks on one side of these pieces, and I really don't want them to show. They have to show on the underside, I think. Oh, yeah, these are not that far in, but hopefully with the piece on the other side, they will be able to, you'll be able to see them. So the papyrus is at the British Museum. I don't know. That's the other problem, is a lot of these stories, longtime subscriber, I love it. We have 2 book nooks. So I bought 2 of them on Amazon Prime Day. And so we got 2 of them and we have a new office space and everything. So I want to treat myself and make it look really cool. But oh my god, this piece is still going to be a bitch to line up. Pieces, unfortunately, in the middle have not been pushed down far enough. There we go. How am I ever going to get these all lined up in the perfect spot? Oh my god. Oh, I did it. Is it in? They're all in. I made a staircase, everyone. That's all that this has been doing, is I made a staircase. Yay. All right, let's. I also think it's really interesting that one of the brothers is named Anubis. But this one does name the different gods. His name's the Re Herakti, And I want to do the context and themes. So there are several themes present in the Tale of Two Brothers that are significant to ancient Egyptian culture. One of these is kingship. The second half of the tale deals largely with the Egyptian ideas of kingship and the connection between the divinity and the pharaoh. That Bata's wife ultimately ends up pregnant with him is a reference that duality is the role of women in pharaonic succession. The roles of wife and mother were often simultaneous. Also, the divine aspect of his wife's creation could be seen to serve as legitimacy for the kingship of Bata, especially since he was not actually the child of the pharaoh. Beyond this, Bata's closeness with the Aeneid in the middle of the story also serves to legitimize his rule. The gods bestowed divine favor upon Bata in his time of need. I'm checking which section I need. I need D section. There are also several references to a separation of Egypt into two lands. Throughout ancient Egyptian history, even when the country is politically unified and stable, it is acknowledged that there are two areas: Lower Egypt in the area of the north, including the Delta, and Upper Egypt, the area to the south. In the beginning of the story, Bata is referred to as unique because there was none like him in the entire land, for a god's virility was in him. Additionally, wherever one of the brothers becomes angry, they are said to behave like an Upper Egyptian panther, or in another translation, like a cheetah of the south. D3. All right. We're getting to the big guns, which is a small little panel that has a Horus and or Ra and Anubis on either side. Little window. There are several issues to consider when analyzing ancient Egyptian literature in general, and the Tale of Two Brothers is no different. One difficulty of analyzing the literature of ancient Egypt is that such scarcity of sources gives to the observation of any kind of historical development within ancient Egyptian literature as a highly hypothetical status, and makes the reconstruction of any intertextual networks perhaps simply impossible. And this definitely has to do with, like, is this actually going to be about specific political events that are actually going on in Egypt, or are they just like really close to what we know and may have been like actually inspired by it? D15 and D16. And then I need D15. Goes in here. And I don't understand why none of these are on like the same pages. And G13. G13 is, oh, this tiny little thing. Oh my gosh. G13. G13 is literally this tiny, tiny piece. It's so small. Come on. Okay. That's in. And then D5. Oh my god, these are like the skinniest little pieces. Don't break, don't break. D5. Whoa, they go in through this? Where? What the heck? Or does this go this way? Yeah, it goes in. Sorry, I realize I'm not. Oh God, why is this so difficult? Come on. There we go. Alrighty. No idea what we're doing in this section. Also, it's 10:39. Okay. I can only make up to that point. Oh, but there's a Sphinx. Oh, I want to make the Sphinx. Ugh, okay. I want to make the little Sphinx. He's so cute. Alrighty. I need G8. And I need... Oh, it's a pile of money. It's a pile of gold and a skull and a sword. Very not ancient Egyptian. There's like an actual like medieval sword in here. This side down. E3. Come on. Sometimes these pieces don't want to go in. They're just like hovering, and that's frustrating to me. That's the thing is I need. There we go. It's like pieces of treasure. I know, all I'm missing is a dragon. I know, it's not definitely not a khopesh. There is a literal medieval crown and a sword and a skull and a giant ruby, which the Egyptians did not have. It should be carnelian. All right. G33. G30. I don't understand why none of these are on the same panel. Like C. No. Oh no, I do need C33 and C8. There we go. Come on. think this is where this goes, right? Okay, actually, I'm gonna put this one on first. Wait a second. No, I did this one wrong. What? Wait a second. Did I do this one wrong too? There isn't a hole in that one. I'm like staring at this all wrong. Oh, that's why. That's why. This doesn't go here, this goes here. No, wait, no. Oh, God, now I'm dropping things. I like carnelian. Yeah. Carnelian is a nice stone. Sorry, I've gotten so distracted by this because I'm blanking to... Oh. Aha! I figured it out. Aha! I have now made a little box that when you look in, it's all stone. Okay. Now I have to attach this to this, so when you look down, you'll look through this, and when you look down, you'll see the stuff. G31. Oh, also, there's no music.
Few civilizations glorified the dead like the ancient Egyptians. Kings were buried inside giant...
I didn't want to play that. Why don't we play another one, actually, while I'm still doing this, while I'm finishing up. This is also another one. It's by the same artist, but I do also love this one. This one's a really cool one. One of my favorite stories. This is probably my favorite Egyptian story, and we'll read it later.
Today we will have a look at the Doomed Prince, which is one of my favorites. It is a story from ancient Egypt from around the 18th or 19th dynasty. So I guess let's get started, shall we? Once upon a time there lived a king with just one wish. He wanted a son. So he prayed to the gods, and they, at last, decided to let him have one. So that night they did the good old baby making, and 9 months later a baby was born. The 7 Hathors came down to decide the baby's fate. But as the title of the story suggests, the news were not the best. He will die either from a dog, or a snake, or a crocodile. Because only one of these would be too little. Let's give him some choices on how to die, am I right? Never mind. The king was terrified, because he didn't want to lose his son. So, as any sensible person would do, he had a house built in the desert with all the stuff and furniture and snacks the young prince would desire, as he would never be allowed to venture outside. So, a baby grew into a young boy, and while he was sitting on top of his desert house, he saw a man walk by, together with a greyhound. The boy was intrigued and immediately asked his attendant what was that four-legged creature, shaped as a friend. After gaining the knowledge about dogs, the young prince demanded one.
Oh, so the seven Hathors, Baha, is not necessarily the goddess Hathor, but it is actually, they are actually supposed to be essentially 5 Hathor priestesses who are sort of like oracles. So they are actually real people. They are probably supposed to be like Hathoric priestesses. But the kind of fun part about it is that they go and predict and foretell stuff. So the 7 Hathors are humans, but they are like cool humans. This is like my favorite part of the story is that like the dog. So like this is why I had to read this story is like he's like I want a dog even though it's been predicted that he's going to die and unexpectedly.
And even though the king knew one might kill him, he couldn't say no to his little baby boy, and so the prince gained a puppy. But even a dog can't entertain you forever, and when the boy grew into a man, he told his father that he has had enough.
So yes, when his dad tells him, yeah, you have to live in this desert house forever because you might be killed by a dog, and then the kid goes, I want a dog. He goes, well, of course I'll give you a dog. Like, the stupidest shit I've ever heard in my life. He's like, well, we'll just give you a dog anyway. And you're like, excuse me? You're like, are you kidding me, sir? I think I got it. Oh my god. No, I didn't get the front pieces. Is something stuck? Oh, that's stuck. Oh, shoot. There we go. Aha! Aha! Let's go. Let's go. Everything's cracking together. Oh, it's so cool. Look. Wait, I can't show you. Oh no. Ah! I had to make little buttons, but they have to be glued on, and the glue is not going to stick that fast. But there are 2 little doors, and you can slide them to go look down the thing for the treasure, which I love. That's so cool that they were able to make little sliding doors. That's so cool. Okay. That's called the attic, apparently, of this set. Alright.
He knows of his fate, and he desired to live free and as he wished, before the gods came and took him. And his father, who couldn't say no, again, agreed and gave him a chariot and weapons and everything he needed for the journey. At last, he just told the young prince, go wherever you wish. And the prince did just that. So the prince and his greyhound headed to the eastern shore of the river and went north, where his heart led him. At last he arrived to the land of Naharan, or the kingdom of Mitanni, of the upper Euphrates River. The prince of Naharan had only one child, and to our Princess luck, it was a beautiful and a smart daughter. But because the dads in this story kind of like to build defenses around their kids, she resided in a stone tower whose window was 70 cubits from the ground. The prince told the suitors for his daughter's hand that whoever jumps to that window, he will give them his daughter for marriage. When our hero arrived, he saw the bunch jumping up and down to reach the windows. When the guys noticed him, they made him feel most welcome and gave him everything he needed after a long journey. And at last, they told him what the Prince of Naharan told them. Our prince was eager to try, but his feet were hurt from the long journey, so he had to wait. He also didn't want to tell the others of his royal status, so he made up a story that he was the son of a charioteer that ran away from home. That gave him some sympathy points from the others. Meanwhile in the tower, the princess had her eyes on the pretty newcomer. And when his feet were healed, he joined the bunch jumping up and down under the window, but with one mighty leap, he jumped right up into the room where the princess was, who was so happy she kissed him and hugged him close. The attendants of the Prince of Naharin rushed to tell him that a husband for his daughter has been found. But he wasn't very happy when he found out that his daughter has been won by a lowly Egyptian charioteer. He wanted him gone and expelled from his kingdom immediately. But his daughter didn't want that, of course, so she swore by the gods that if he leaves, she won't drink nor eat and die. So her dad was like, okay, just kill him and, get it over with. But the daughter intervened again, saying that if he dies, she dies. Her dad loved her a lot, so at last he gave up and summoned the couple. And even though he didn't want to say it, he liked the Egyptian as he seemed to have a natural dignity around him. But when the prince asked about his story, our hero played dumb and repeated the story he made up about being a charioteer's son. But even through that, the Prince of Naharim gave them their blessing and a house, fields, and all that good stuff. In their new home, the prince told his wife the truth and also that he was destined to be killed by either a dog, snake, or a crocodile. The princess was shocked and wanted his greyhound to be killed immediately. But the prince stopped her. He raised him from a puppy. This good boy would never kill him. Just look at his little paws and stuff. His wife still was not convinced, but she let the dog live.
And yes, that is not an exact translation, but that is an exact part of that story where she's literally like, duh, you gotta kill your dog. And he goes, why would I kill my dog? I've raised it since it was a puppy. It won't do any harm to me. And she's like, well, I guess it's okay that you keep him. And I'm just like, oh my god, it's just so easy to predict what happens. And I just it annoys the crap out of me. It's so funny. Alright.
Watching her husband closely. I mean, she did not even allow him to leave the house alone. Unknown to both of them, the crocodile that was fated to kill him followed him the whole way from Egypt and was now lurking in the nearby lake. But, to the luck of our hero, the lake was also a home of a strong water spirit, who didn't allow the crocodile to leave, and they battled every day. The next day was a feast day, and the prince partied so hard he fell asleep as soon as his head touched the headrest. But his wife was alert. She filled one bowl with wine and the other with beer as she watched over her sleeping husband. And of course, a snake showed up, with the intention to kill the prince and fulfill his fate. But instead of that, he chose to drink from both of the bowls and became drunk. The princess didn't wait for anything and chopped the snake in pieces with an axe. When the prince woke up, she showed him the dead body and told him that his god delivered him from one of his fates, and hopefully soon he will deliver him from the rest and he will be safe at last. So the prince praised Ra for days after that. A few days later, the prince went for a stroll around his estate and took his dog with him. His wife stayed at home, so he was alone when the greyhound spoke, and he said, "I am your fate," and chased after the prince. He ran from the growling dog that he loved, jumping into the water of the lake, where not even a second later a crocodile seized him by his powerful jaws. "I am your fate," the crocodile spoke. "But also, I have been tormented by this water spirit every day, and I am ready to strike a bargain with you. I will let you go, but you must help me kill him." And on the dawn of the next day, the water spirit returned. And that's where the story ends. Even in ancient Egypt, they knew how to end on a cliffhanger. Basically what happened, the only papyrus we found with the story is damaged and we do not know the ending. But maybe one day we will be lucky enough and find another papyrus with the whole story transcribed. I mean, at least I hope so. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed. If you did, I would be really happy if you liked or subscribed. And I guess I'll see you next time. Bye bye.
So again, this one is a little this is the most unsatisfying in my opinion. Also, this is what I have built. This is the base for the Sphinx. But the choppiness of the story actually starts a little bit earlier, when it when the dog talks to him. So when it actually, the story becomes really, really choppy, unfortunately, and it most likely says that the like dog looks at him and says, "I am your fate," but it's not 100% clear because of like nothing is really, really well preserved. And so it's either that the dog comes out and says, "I am your like actually speaks to it." Yeah, absolutely. Let me if my mouse decides to work. This one is the other one that we watch is also by the same
Frogs, best animal.
author. I wonder if they have like a playlist. They're apparently doing the Argonaut story animated as well, but they have like a ton of other things. A lot of ancient Greece looks like. There is a Contendings of Horus and Seth, but I know we're not gonna watch that one today. I actually haven't seen if there's other ones. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. This is only about 2 years old or something. Oh, there is this one. We might watch this one. This one's funny.
Hathor is a kind goddess, daughter, sometimes wife of Ra, the sun god. This was signified by her holding the sun disk itself in between her horns on her head, guarded by an Uraeus. She did everything for her father, and that is why the story we are talking about today actually happened. Hello, my name is Zeri, and today we are gonna have a look at Sekhmet and her story of killing and beer. Without further ado, let's go! Hathor wasn't always only her nice, kind self as we knew her. She was, after all, the Eye of Ra, and when needed, she could rage. And when that happened, she changed into a completely new being, Sekhmet. It so happened that Ra was becoming kind of old, senile, if you will. His bones were turning into silver, his skin to gold, and his hair to lapis lazuli. With this change, he started to lose support of his people, to such lengths that some were even planning to overthrow him for the throne. Thanks to this, Ra summoned other powerful gods who all entered his chambers in secret so that the mortals wouldn't know. The gods stood by Ra's throne where Ra sought advice from his father, Nun. The god of the sun went like, "Dad, the humans are plotting against me and I want to kill every single one of them, but I won't do it unless you tell me it's a good idea, so is it a good idea?" Nun encouraged him to set his eye free instead, to release Hathor. And so Hathor transformed into a completely new being, Sekhmet, the lion goddess, and started killing all that spoke ill of her father. The desert was colored red with their blood and littered with dead bodies. Sekhmet afterwards came back to the palace, boasting of her victories to her father, who, at the sight of all that slaughter, realized that he may have made a mistake. He needs to save the rest of humanity, and fast. He sent his messengers to collect red pigment and also ordered his serving maids to start grinding barley. When the brewing began, they mixed the beer with pigment and it became blood red, just as Ra has planned. 7,000 jars of beer should be enough, right? The day when Sekhmet planned to kill the rest of humanity came. Ra traveled to the fields before his daughter and spilled the red beer all over. They became flooded, and when Sekhmet saw it, she thought it was blood. She saw her reflection, smiled, and started drinking the beer until she returned to her father drunk and satisfied. She calmed down and humanity was spared. Even through all this, Ra still couldn't forgive the humans fully, and decided to leave Earth rising to the sky as the sun we see every day. The end. So yeah, please don't make Hathor mad. Thank you for watching, like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye!
What are your thoughts, Lena? Because I'm very curious. Generally, in my thoughts, I actually think it has to do I think that might be the closest to the flood myth equivalent that we have. Like, I feel like that has to be, that is so similar in a lot of ways to, like, the flood myth and the reason why, like, humanity's going down and stuff. And so I feel like that is, like, kind of the closest. But what are your thoughts about this? Anyone else has any thoughts about this? F25. Breaking the wrong parts. F25. Three. Rod just needs to communicate better. I mean, that is definitely true. And then F26 goes on top of that. I think I'm making more steps. Ding. Ugh, it's like not in. There we go. Okay. It's crooked. Oh no. Okay. Ow. My fingers hurt. I really want to make the Sphinx. I'm almost there. I got his little leggy parts, but I have to paste the other parts on. Gotta find... C44. See this and this, and he's got a Nemes headdress on. So the head, was the head also getting pasted? Oh, I guess it is. Oh, that's not going to stay on very long. And C29, C28. Oh god, I just dropped like the smallest piece. I am never gonna... Oh, the glue definitely seems to be working. It just seems like it takes a little bit. Like, oh my god, like it won't even... Alright. face of the Sphinx is not going to be able to go on it. Yeah, there definitely are a lot of stories about Ra. There's one thing that I've noticed a lot that I don't think people totally, like, understand, is that, like, there just aren't a lot of, actual myths that are written down. Like, I find that, like, we have more, like, actually concrete written versions of myths from other cultures and not from, like, Egyptian. Like, we don't have as many... I feel like we have so many more Greek myths that we have, like, them actually written down and actual, like, textual evidence. And when it comes to Egypt, we have literature stories and not really myths. Like, we don't have them really as written down and nice as we do other cultures. Okay, I got the little feetsy down, and the rest appears to be gluing. I gotta glue the shanks on. Mm-hmm. No, this is not really... I'm not saying that this has any actual inspiration into it, but I'm just saying it is eerily similar to the flood myth in the sense that... Which the other thing is, I have to look up what this actually... if this is actually a text, because that's the problem with a lot of these, is that I can't figure out if they're actual texts or if they are just stories, sort of. Good night. We're about to end right now. Oh god, it's already 11:11. I finished my Sphinx, sort of. Sort of. Is the key word. God, the stupid glue. Oh god, head's tilting. This glue is like, doesn't dry fast enough. Yeah, I'm referencing it more to even the Mesopotamia flood myth is all about, like, we're gonna destroy the humans and stuff, and then they regret it, and then it is saved by something. And so, like, that's the eerie part that's, like, similar. Like, obviously it has nothing to do with the flood myth, and there's obviously, I don't mean that, well, I know that, like, the Bible takes stuff from Mesopotamia, so I don't doubt that they take stuff that they have heard from Egypt, but it's all passed down, and it's nothing that we could ever actually, like, prove about something. But I think it's definitely very interesting to kind of think about it and think about how everything kind of gets put together like that in some ways, because there are just so many stories and so many things that you have to do to be able to, like, get to that point, get to that story. All right. I am doing one last thing because this will finish off this little piece, I think. G22 and G21. Thing is that I have to paste something, of course. It's like part of a sarcophagus opening, which is kind of cool, but also kind of precarious, to be honest. There's also a mummy walking out of it, or hovering out of it, I guess. Whoa! That was not good. Oh, definitely not good. Yeah, very much so. A lot of that definitely appears, for sure. No! Damn thing. This definitely needs like some serious super glue. Alright, then I have to take the lovely little Anubis table, and that fits right to the side of it, which is awesome. And then I just need two last things from the F panel. F7 and 22. Making like a little fence-ish area. I've officially completed the first page. And now I really want to keep going, but I, alas, cannot. We have to stop. But this is what I have finished. You see the Sphinx, you see this little mummy walking out, you have this Anubis thing, there's a little step in the back here, and then I have the sliding doors down to the treasure room. We have the little stairs. These are actually going to go right, I think, underneath there. Then we have the two Hathor statues. And the two big braziers and the two little flames. And that's it. We've almost gone to step 2, which is assemble the scene. There's still a couple little things later, so, and now my fingers really, 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 really hurt, so that's gonna be fun for tomorrow. Nope, this one. Alrighty, my loves. Thank you guys so much for being patient.